Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.
It's a privilege to welcome you back to the 2016 World Ultimate and Guts Championships, and the week in London is nearing its climax. We are set for the men's semifinals. First, Japan and Australia. Evan Lepler and Brian Jones with you from Field 1, which has been dormant for quite a while. We have been hit by torrential rain. We are expecting intermittent showers throughout the afternoon, but we've had a mix of sun and clouds today, and there's been great anticipation all week long to get to this moment. The men's division began with 30 teams. 12 of them made the championship bracket. Last night, we whittled that down to the final four. Brian, we'll see USA and Canada later, but Japan and Australia, these are two teams from the same area of the globe. They are somewhat familiar with each other. They met at Dream Cup just a few months ago, a slight win for Japan, but that was March. Now it is June. What do you expect today?
I think it's going to be fireworks. We saw in the quarterfinal game, Australia versus Great Britain, a game which Great Britain won 4 years ago. Australia handily took it. Their hooks look to be on point. But on the other hand, the Japanese, they run a very unorthodox system on offense, tough to defend. Going to be a great game here today.
Australia begins on offense. Peter Blakely, one of the leading stat makers for the Dingoes, looking to Neild, an angled shot. Neild rises for the score. The first punch thrown from the Aussies.
In the same way this week we've seen the Japanese go out and throw blades to the break side. The Australians are so good with throwing hucks from all angles. It's normal when you teach a team, coach a team, that you don't want hucks coming from the same third. The Australians rightfully usually ignore that rule because they have the height and the playmakers who can read the disc. As we take a look here at the Australian roster, Mike Neild is only one of the names that you take a look at, one of the team's best players, most veteran players. Matt Dowells has contributed a lot. On the D-line, we've seen Tum Tuitt do a great job pulling the disc and manning the backfield. And we've mentioned before Peter Blakely, one of the young stars of the squad.
Daniel Rule, the head coach, Greta Murdoch, and Matt Hill, Timmel, the assistants. They are wired up on the sidelines. The Australian coaching staff communicates to each other via walkie-talkies and an earpiece. They look a little bit like Secret Service agents with the earpiece lingering. So Japan set to receive on offense. These two teams have something in common, Brian. Their only loss this week, both against the Americans. The Australians in the power pool, and then Japan in the power pool crossover. Both Japan and the United States had already clinched quarterfinals berths at that point. Japan beating Belgium 15-10 in the quarterfinal round to advance to semis. And the first throw connects with the 88 shirt, Ryoma Katsuta. Here's Masahiro Matsuno, number 10 in the blue for Japan. The speedy Taiyo Arakawa up the line, can't get it. And the game's first turnover forced by the Aussies.
Getting a little bit greedy for the Japanese. They like the quick movement. Australians were poaching.
Taking a shot, Jackson airs it out. It's caught just shy of the goal line. Robert Andrews dumps it back. Ryan Davey resets. Mark Isherwood has an opening, and he's in. It's Andrews with the goal. 2-0 for Australia.
When we take a look at the Australian team coming up throughout this tournament, they kind of hit a bit of a snag when they played USA in the power pools. But they came away from that game making some adjustments and hoping to get things right. And they did that with Great Britain getting off to a fast start. And here today, they're off to a fantastic start. It's usually very hard to generate turnovers. right there kind of generating a bit of a freebie and then executing their offense perfectly with the big huck and putting it in for the score.
Well, yesterday against Great Britain, Australia showed great energy. Here's a look at the Japanese roster for Yohei Abe and Yoshinori Nasan. Japan led by Masahiro Matsuno, number 10. Korono in the 6 shirt has been fantastic, and in 24 they call him the Jet. You have said, I'm not sure I've seen anyone faster than him in small spaces. Joel Schlackett-esque, perhaps, for the Japan perspective. We'll see USA and Canada later today. Canada's lone loss in this tournament against the Japanese in a power pool crossover. Canada getting by Germany in the quarterfinal rounds. USA beating Colombia. Japan looking for Corona. Beautiful toss. And a floaty flick run down by Matsuno. Japanese are not incredibly tall, but they can strike over the top.
And they did so right there. Corona going deep. He's been incredibly valuable to this Japanese squad as we take a look here right off the start. This may be a small team, but they're not afraid to huck it, and for reasons like this, look at the separation he's able to get. And even maybe more impressive than that is this throw on a rope. And a little bit of wind, some storms coming through. That sits on a shelf for Matsuno to go and get. I thought by the time it was released, as we take a look again here, that Matsuno might have to lay out for that. And Matsuno's getting up there in the years, but Korono able to put it out perfectly.
Masahiro Matsuno has been a legend in the sport, a mysterious one for many North American Ultimate fans, but a name that any real Ultimate fan knows is one of the great non-North American players. Australia certainly has made a bunch of those through the years too. We'll see Tom Rogacki in the mixed championship game tomorrow, as the legend from Australia has led the Barramundis back to the world title game. They'll face the United States 11 a.m. local time here in London tomorrow. That's the game that will air on CBS Sports Network in the United States, 4 p.m. Eastern. Kneeled, shoots it, and a rising catch for Evans. Sebastian Barr leading the team in assists so far this week. You can see the wetness of the field causing some slipping and sliding, but Blakely has no issues. Blakely to Dowell, 3-1 for the Aussies as the drizzle has recommenced. The weather here in London is like a moody bartender right now. Sometimes it's happy, sometimes you're soaking wet, and you never really know what's coming 15 minutes from now.
So far, the Australians are doing a great job of getting separation on their cuts. The Japanese aren't keyed in right now to the Australians' looks. They've seen each other a couple different times, as we outlined before. Them being on the same side of the world, they often attend the same type of international tournaments. And one of the questions coming into this game was more, could Australia, the Australian D, match up against the Japanese O? So far, it's been a bit of the other way around. Japan is struggling to find the right look to slow down this Australian offense.
So 3-1, the points have come very quickly so far. The only turnover, the upline toss from Japan, that was too far ahead. Isherwood launches the pull. The breeze is slight, but it's inconsistent. And already you can see the sun poking through. We might have a majestic rainbow here on field 1 before the day is over. We had one yesterday on the adjacent fields, about a half kilometer in front of us.
Great marking here by the Australians, really staying off the mark, cutting off the angles, not trying to mark too tightly, knowing that the Japanese love to break and get it to the break side of the field.
Matsuno plays through the bump of McDonald, and they swing the disc to Katsuta. This is Tanaka back to Fujikawa.
A lot of slipping and sliding downfield. The pitch, which has been immaculate all week long, we had to stay off of the field yesterday as a result of the heavenly rains that came through and flooded a lot of the area. And here for the first time, I'm starting to see this field get a little torn up. It's been saturated all throughout the weekend.
As a cutter, how does the torn up field change the way you approach your activity?
Now, I think it's more important for the defense in a lot of ways, but you have to take shorter steps, smaller steps, chop your feet a lot, make sure you have the grip on the field.
Japan has done a good job taking the unders, although now they look long. Australia had the height, but the better read from Japan as Ryoma Katsuta makes the catch to get the Japanese within one.
There was only one path that this throw could take, and it did it exactly, going over the top of the Australian defense. And this is something that's so fun to watch as we take a look here on the replay. Japan staying really patient, and Tanaka launches one, a big arc over the top. So not even really that close for the 53 shirt defender from Australia. Coming in trying to make the play. Too far. If you push that pass too far, it's going to go out at the back of the end zone. And so that's what's great about this sport and the Buzz Bullets. The club team out of Japan, their style has really infiltrated the national teams as well, where they love to use non-flat passes, different types of angles, finding a way to get the disc to the receiver in a way that the defenders can't touch it.
Many of these Japanese players, members of that Buzz Bullets dynasty. Australia, a mix of clubs from down under as well, many from Colony, perhaps the most well-known from Australia. 4 years ago in Sakai, in the men's division, it was the 7th place game that saw Australia and Japan collide. The stakes much greater here in London. Already guaranteed a spot in the top 4, but a chance to medal. And how sweet would it be if it is gold for one of these countries from outside of North America, where the Ultimate has been largely dominated from. And Japan has its first D, an excellently timed poach from Raito Nose, and Japan will have the disc.
The first time all game that Japan was able to slow down the Dingoes' offense and force them just to stay a little bit more patient. Usually this is a fast strike offense that likes to put the disc up deep very quickly.
Yuasa launches. Incredible physical contact downfield both ways. They were pushing and shoving, and they set the standard of physicality with no call right there.
Both players initiating contact, trying to fight for the disc, and they talk a lot about how Ultimate is a non-contact sport, but it's also up to the players at hand, and we're seeing a preview here of how both teams like to play.
For folks who have never gotten to really watch the Japanese play Ultimate before, their style is distinctly different from what many North Americans are used to, particularly in the way they defend, how they often play without marks, and they really test your patience. In Australia, a team that, while they've shown excellent patience at times this week, they're a team that likes to score fast. And they score here. Up the line, they jam it in. Mark Evans, the veteran, makes the catch. 4-2.
As a coach, your job is always to force the other team into plan B, and that's what the Japanese are slowly starting to do. It may be successful for the Australians. They had one turnover there. Japan had a chance to get a break, but going forward, you want to continue to make the team do what they're not comfortable doing the most. Take a look here at the block. Got just enough, and then ensuing after that, Japan striking deep and a lot of contact. A lot of arm physicality there that we don't normally see. And the Dingoes go the other way and pop one over the top for the goal.
Japan certainly capable of a comeback. They scored 4 straight against USA after being down 14-8. Really threatening the United States late in the game, and there certainly was some gamesmanship in that contest from the Japanese. They're known for that. Certainly right now it's all about winning. But perhaps the performance throughout the week setting up what we'll see right now. Tom Tullett with the pull.
In and out of the hands of Japan, going deep. They do like to strike quickly, but that one unsuccessful.
Australia looking to work it the full 70 on the defensive side of the disc. Low throw and a turn in the end zone intended for Conrad Wallace.
Just as the wind starts to pick up, it's been a lot of rain this week, but not a lot of wind.
Do you think the wind favors the Japanese?
Not usually.
How about that? Not exactly how they drew it up perhaps, but it worked. It's Tanaka flipping it to Corono, but perhaps it'll come back.
Would you like to contest it? Yeah, you would like to contest it? And there's contest it. まあ譲れないのでコンテストでお願いしたいです。Yeah, but he's saying he throw before 10 count, so he would. Yeah.
Contested stall. Tanaka won't have that much time before he has to get rid of the disc. Same result though. Corona forced to bid, but no problem there. Japan back within one here midway through the first half.
Whether it's a push pass or lefty, these throws are becoming increasingly popular, and a lot of coaches try to make the kids stay away from them early on, but if you do them in the right situations, they're incredibly valuable. They look deep right away. Matsuno couldn't hang on, and after that, they got it back from the turf throw. Tanaka just tossing it up. Don't be mistaken here, just because the Japanese have some smaller players in stature, they are in their own right incredible athletes that go up against these top teams all of the time and take off games.
Well, a great crowd has been summoned to the showcase field here at the Watford Football Club Training Complex, which, considering the colossal amounts of precipitation, has really withstood the demand. Massive facility hosting nearly 3,000 athletes this week. Only the select few are still alive in pursuit of a gold medal and a world championship.
And just behind us, we actually have the Masters men's final, USA versus Canada, taking place.
Should be an excellent game. I'll try to keep you posted. It's also being streamed with David Price at the helm. USA women's Masters team has clinched gold with a 15-10 win over Canada in the previous round. As Neil looks long, Matt Dowell cannot come up with a catch.
Australia's offense does a good job of relying on players to cut from a variety of different positions. The rain play taking a toll.
And we've seen some uncharacteristic errors, a little sloppiness. Evans, cheeky backhand. Despite 4 turnovers in their last 3 points, Australia still with a 2-score lead.
It's hard to plan for this type of game because the weather keeps changing on you, whether it's rain or no rain, wind or no wind, and in which direction is it blowing in, because we just saw a couple of turnovers there that I don't think normally happen if the weather's perfect. Both teams trying to figure out the right strategy. Let's take a look here on the goal line for Australia. For a couple of turnovers, getting used to the lefty. You can use that throw when going downwind, no problem. And a great throw here coming off the top of the stack when you have the space to do it.
Mark Evans, the veteran, picks up the assist, and Sebastian Barr has been so instrumental in the Australian offense all week long. The World Flying Disc Federation's free streaming coverage of the 2016 World Ultimate Championships from London is brought to you by WUGC Ultimate, proud to be the official merchandise partner of the World Flying Disc Federation, by Eric, teaching youth about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics, by the members of USA Ultimate, and by WIFDIF and Discraft. And Japan, in virtually 10 seconds or less, bolts down the field for a score.
They call him a jet for the reason. He's got incredible speed. We first saw him at U23s in Toronto in 2013. And from there, he's been giving increasing more responsibility, doing a lot more with the disc for Japan. And it seems early on that Australia's strategy is to force deep, but don't be fooled once again by the small height. The Japanese love their hucks. They just love to send them in blade fashion so they come down quicker.
It's Taiyo Arakawa. Arakawa has a great future in Japan and on the international scene. So many of these Japanese players play with smiles on their faces. As the week has gone on, Brian, I've enjoyed more and more eavesdropping on some post-game spirit circles, because early in the week, everybody's happy to be there. Teams have different goals. But at this stage of the tournament, everyone within sight of a championship. And when the two teams come together after a hard-fought battle, one team relieved and euphoric to have moved on, the other heartbroken, unconsolable, and yet there's still respect and spirit at the end of the Australia GB game. Justin Ford for Great Britain and Mike Neild for Australia both spoke beautifully about what the game meant and the emotions and the rivalry that will live on. There's an unforced turnover there. The disc just slipping out of the grasp of Evans on the release.
And that's hard for the Australians, whose plan is usually to huck it. Japan forcing them to move it around, as right now there's an equipment issue on the field and they fixed it. The play will restart. That's Australia's plan B, is they want to huck it and they want to use their athletes from a lot of different positions. Japan going deep.
In pursuit of Miyazaki, who was particularly impressive in the second half against the United States. The youngster, just 22 years old, not fast enough to get to that one.
It's hard to run a quick throw offense when the disc is wet. Just a little bit difference in your release point. Have to make sure you're gripping it as well as you can. And sometimes hucks can especially start to go in directions you didn't plan.
Neild using the width of the field, finding Tim Lavis, and right up the line, gaining 25 yards, Callan Spielman. Back to the center, it's Lavis. His eyes downfield, he blades it to the end zone, but Japan is there, and it's caught off the body of Miyazaki. You got to be kidding me. Callan Spielman plucked it out of thin air for the Australian goal.
A lot of the bounces have already started to go Australia's way, but I didn't think they would get this many this early. You don't see that often. You see a lot of self-max, but here, defender is going to make a great play, and not the greatest decisions of a Huck to come through. You see the disc blading, comes in, bounce around, picking it off the defender. Either way, it all counts the same. So we take a look again from this angle.
We've seen plays like this before, and it can become an iconic image.
Alex Nord taking the disc off the back for Sakai, and Spielman is going to take credit for that. And Japan has to come away a little frustrated, but knowing they're forcing Australia into some decisions where they're going to get their opportunities.
Australia's offense has turned it over on each of its last 2 trips onto the field. Both times, though, forcing a turn to get the disc back to score. Big shot in pursuit of Corona. Nothing but green grass ahead of him. He keeps his feet and needs help. Kamimura halted by a stoppage.
The Japanese are getting free lanes going deep, and there's no help coming from the Australians, and it's Corona repeatedly getting steps, or Arakawa repeatedly getting steps. It's giving Japan a really good lane to score quickly.
Corona with the disc. Kichikawa. Katsuta flips it to the end zone for the score.
Well, after the foul call, Japan has to only run a couple of give and goes and take a look at their quick movement to get it into the end zone. But from the beginning, the Dingo's game plan has been to force Japan deep, and it hasn't paid off other than the early unforced error. So we take a look here. Wind up, send it deep. Corona, why not when you have that much room to send it deep?
Well, the Japanese are very versatile in their release points. Perhaps more high release throws, especially deep throws, than you see from other teams around the world.
They have to be creative in the way they attack the disc, in the way that they throw it, all the angles that they have. It's tough for them to run a conventional offense. And maybe just because of that, they found a new way of doing things that all teams really should be following. But that's why we come here for the international flavor, is you're not just getting the same old battle over and over again. You're seeing creativity at work.
And it's really the defensive side of the disc which forces the peak of Japanese creativity, as you'll see here. Sagging into passing lanes, although not disrupting Australia's flow so far. Nice hammer over the top from Matt Dowell, but it was dropped by Callan Spielman.
Australia finding ways to bust through the zone. And they call a timeout, Japan does, trying to regroup. See if they can send one in to tie this game up.
Well, the championship games are set in the mixed division and in the women's division. In the mixed side of things at 11 a.m. tomorrow, it'll be the Barramundis from Australia against Team USA. In the women's division, it'll be USA versus Colombia, who knocked off the Japanese earlier today. If we can, we'll try to peek into the Australian huddle here.
Great start. I want to go out there and set your match. Okay? Downfielders, I want you to be pushing back on the
No inside flick, yeah?
No inside flick, and we're done that. Let's go, boys.
A glimpse into the energy and strategy from both Australia and Japan. Daniel Rule, the head coach, he was a player for the Dingoes back in 2008 in Vancouver. He was the head coach of the Barramundis in Sakai in 2012, the mixed team from Australia. What is a dingo, you might ask? A wild dog that roams around Australia. It's one of the most serious terrestrial predators down under.
You can sit here as the teams get set up and we go back to a wide view. You will see that Japan is actually starting with 4 handlers and 3 cutters deep, and this is an offense that sometimes used, mostly international play. Seattle Sakai used it in the 2000s. It's great to isolate players right off the bat.
Well, the first cut came from the handler core. Masashi Koike could not shake free of Sebastian Barr. And Japan going backwards rather than forwards right now. Hana just in front of his end zone has to send it back to Takahashi. Fantastic defense from Australia out of the timeout. Can they keep it up? Or will the Japanese find an opening?
You can play fantastic defense against the Japanese and they'll still find a way to dink and dunk their way to a score, so it's tough to choose. Sometimes you have to be aggressive and force bigger throws, and they still find a way to go move it backwards for a little bit before going upfield.
Just barely sneaking it past the outstretched arm of Lavis a moment ago. Takahashi dishes it. Shiba. Here's Corona. This would be a break for Japan that would tie things up here in the first half. Winner of this game plays for gold tomorrow. The loser has to battle for bronze in the morning. Japan has broken. And we're even 6-all.
Australia trying to adjust their strategy, noticing that Japan was shooting deep, but sometimes it's all for naught because it may have taken 60 passes, but the Japanese will do that over and over again, and they've proven year in, year out to have that discipline. They use a lot of passes in here after things break down. Just gassed are the Australians. A tough situation, and now it looks like their top offensive line is either going to have to come off the field or they're taking a timeout of some sort because they're not rushing back into the game.
Well, they certainly rely on that top offense, which was really forced to run a ton during that point. So an advantage for Japan. This team is very calculating, never panics.
They have a mental toughness over the years that they've developed, taking out American teams in a lot of situations.
Japan's tournament began on Sunday against the Netherlands, a 15-5 win, and then a 15-8 victory over Austria, abbreviated as AUT, not to be confused with the Aussies of AUS.
And we are right here, right now, this moment. Yes. Win the moment. Be here, be engaged, know the D, help your teammates, back them in. Be here right now. Yeah, boys. Be here! Oh, yeah. Be here, check in! Come on! Come on! Here it comes! 1, 2, 3, Dingoes! Let's go, boys. Come on, let's go, Dingoes.
Australia's tournament began with a 15-9 win over Colombia, a game we had for you here on the showcase field. It was 8-7 at the half, and then the Aussies rallied off 5 breaks in a row to start the second half en route to the 15-9 win. They followed that up with a 15-7 win over Spain and officially secured the pool by taking down Israel 15-7. First power pool game, a 15-2 rout over the gents from South Africa, and then a 15-7 win over the Czech Republic. The lone loss for Australia was against the United States of America, 15-8. They were tied 5-all in that game, but outscored 10-3 down the stretch. But then into bracket play, a win over Ireland, 15-12 in the pre-quarters, and then 15-11 over Great Britain. And that was really a tremendous battle. The Brits did not play their best. The Aussies may have. And it was a sight to see the emotion that Australia portrayed throughout that game.
4 defenders around the disc here for the Japanese, but a lot of switching and a lot of communication. It's not a typical zone.
And that was not a typical throw to beat the zone. Japan has a second consecutive break. It happens so quickly sometimes. 7-6, Japan leads Australia.
On a great run here for the Japanese, and that starts all things off with a great pull. It's so important to your game, one of the most underrated things in Ultimate. And we say underrated because people know it's important, but they don't put a lot of stock into it. Here we see the block, but that's set up from the pole, setting the Dingoes deep in the end zone. And after that, Matsuno, just a quick dish very quickly. After a game where it looked like the Dingoes were in control, now Japan on top.
So the Japanese team will try to register another break and take half. They were down 6-4, now leading 7-6 on the secondary showcase field. Adjacent to us, they've gone to the half in the men's Masters gold medal match. The United States leading Canada 8-5. It's already been 1 gold for USA in women's Masters. The mixed and women's teams are already through to the finals. USA men will see around 5:30 local time, 12:30 Eastern in the US against Canada. The battle for North American supremacy, that will be a dandy. Critical point here for Australia.
2 deep back for the Japanese, just taking stock of everything that's going around and making sure there's help.
Remember, Japan will receive to start the second half. So if the Japanese can capitalize on that drop from Barr, then Japan would have a chance to score again out of halftime on offense.
Another shock to the system as a drop takes place here for the Australians. They're out of it a little bit mentally here, Evan. It's one of those games where they came out with great energy, they had control, and now immediately out of the timeout, they're going to have to try to rebound in some way, because I see a lot of players' hands on their hips, body language, just communicating that they don't know what's going on here. They're upset with mistakes. And just when the weather goes crazy and you're in these types of games, it's all about what you can do next.
Let's see what they say to try to settle the team down.
Come on, boys! Get it back. Get the frisbee back. 1, 2, 3, Dingoes!
Brian, you've been a coach in many of these situations. In these moments, there's only so much you can add from a strategic standpoint. It's about trying to set the tone to inspire something special.
And this is where it's so important as a coach to understand your players and be able to inspire them in a moment, because everybody's going to react differently at different times. And that's why you try to develop relationships over the course of the year. Coaching's not just a matter of X's and O's, it's a matter of knowing players, managing personalities. And I remember years when I started my media career covering Revolver, Bart Watson would give me tips on how to do things, and he saw me the first time coaching. He said, "So you learn coaching, people management, huh?"
It's largely what it is about. Neal going for that frisbee, got a piece of it, but could not dislodge it from Kusano. Up the sideline to Takahashi. And a travel. They quickly reset and play on. Koike blades the flick to Hana. Brink of the end zone, Takahashi. 4 straight goals from the Japanese to take it to half. Australia searching for answers because Japan has a 2-break lead and will receive to begin half number 2.
Early on, Australia looked to be dominating. They were setting Hucks deep. They were getting the options they wanted. Japan came back, and their offense looked incredible after an early mistake. From here, it's just been quick movement after the turnovers. Australia hasn't known what to do. The defensive line has gotten in the sync. They've made the adjustment, and this is Japan's game to lose. Going in the second half, it's about what adjustments Australia can make to try to get back in this game.
At the half, it is Japan 8 and Australia 6. Our live streaming coverage from the World Flying Disc Federation's World Ultimate and Guts Championships will continue in just a little bit. Halftime here on Field 1 in the men's semifinal in London. Back for the start of the second half. Time running short for the Australians as they trail 8-6 in this quest to 15. The winner advancing to the championship match against either the United States or Canada. Evan Lepler, Brian Jones with you. Australia had a lot to talk about during the halftime break, Brian, because Japan scored on offense to make it 4-3, and then, or rather to make it 6-5, and then registered 3 consecutive breaks to take it to half. How do the Dingoes stifle this momentum from Japan?
I think you can go over just very simple things as a coach, and that can be a really calming influence because it's really easy to go look inside your brain and try to look for a reason why everything's going wrong, when in reality it's just a couple of unforced errors, a couple of mistakes. Get back to the simple stuff. Oftentimes you'll hear coaches say, we're just going to talk about our dump setup right now, talk about our situations or sequences in offense, and get ready to go. Keep it simple, move on forward.
We shall see if the Dingoes continue to rely on their primary defenders or if some of the offensive players switch over immediately to begin the second half. You see Mike Neild playing on defense, which has not been too common. Also charging down the field, the 19 shirt, Benjamin Sutas, Lachlan McDonald, and they throw a little zone to begin this second half.
There's a phrase that says, don't lose a game without ever throwing zone. I like this off the start here by the Australians, changing up the look, getting just a little bit different.
That disc was in the air a long time, still tracked down by Gavin Moore. Beg your pardon, by Soki Sato. And contact on the mark. It was Wallace bumping his counterpart Matsuno. Japan slices through the Australian zone. A big upline gainer and patience near the end zone gives Japan a 3-score lead.
Despite a good move to change things up, Japan has all the throws and answers to go through this zone. They're very good at hitting very precise windows. They do a great job of with less time and space than other teams do. And so up the sideline, as soon as they see an opening, not afraid to put it out. They have great risk-taking throws and great fakes, moving the cup. You can see they're going for the goal, hitting Chikawa in the end zone.
So Japan looking very strong. And certainly no team has played the United States tougher than Japan. Final score being 15-12. The United States in their quarterfinal matchup against Colombia won it 15-2. USA playing those 17 points with just 1 turnover. Nearly a perfect performance from the USA. Japan here up by 3. First time that Australia has had a chance on offense here in the second half.
Throwing a very similar zone to what we saw from the Australians, and they go right through it, but it's similar in terms of the type of players around the disc, but very different in spacing. As you see, no mark here for the Japanese as they finally come up and be a little bit of aggressive after that, but still 4 defenders around the disc.
Lavis got the right foot down first to ensure that he would stay in bounds. Back to Barr and Lavis. Evans.
Here is where, as a coach, to try to beat these type of zones, you can try to promote mini games. Great short disc movement is something that Japanese excel in.
And taking it into this open space. Evans from Neild. An impeccable hold from Australia, but defense is where they're going to have to show their mettle if they're going to come back in this game.
They have not been able to pressure the Japanese thus far, whether it's been getting them out of their comfort zone. The Japanese have shown really a preference to either shoot it deep with great speed or to dink and dunk their way to victory downfield. It's a hard option to choose because you want to choose something in the lower percentage. We take a look here at the replay. Neild is going to go ahead and toss this in for an easy goal. Japan has a lot of different tricks defensively they'll throw out to create a change of pace.
Well, Japan's disc possession so far this game, through 10 points, Japan had 5 turnovers. In the last 6 points, Japan has not turned it over once. The pull will not come back. So 20 yards in front of the end zone from the center X, that brick mark, which is not nearly as visible as it was on Sunday or Monday. That is one of the muddiest sections of the pitch.
Here Australia will change things up and leave one deep option, one deep defender.
Matsuno airs it out. Korono chases it down. Matsuno to Korono for Japan.
This Japanese offense is leaving the Australians in disbelief. They've had the advantage almost against every other team in guarding the deep space, so much so that we have Rob Andrews in the deep space for Australia. And it doesn't matter because Andrews lets Korono go, and all it takes is a little bit of separation. The Japanese regularly practice these types of throws, very creative in putting the disc deep, and it's a thing of beauty in the end when you can see an offense continuously do it. Because as a defense, you're going, well, that's an option we want them to take. Eventually we'll get a D out of that, we'll get a block or their misfire. Very rarely do they do misfire. And as a result, that's how they built this 10-7 lead.
In the Japan battle against Canada a few days ago, we saw Matsuno largely as the center handler for the Japanese offense. In this game, he has been much more of an initiation cutter doing his work downfield. It speaks to his versatility, but what do you think about Japan saving him and saving his legs, those 33-year-old legs, for the bracket play?
It's a great strategy. Matsuno didn't play against the U.S., but pretty much every starter did. Matsuno's seen all of the U.S.'s strategies. He's a veteran player. He's the type of guy that one game off can make all the difference in the world.
Neild tried to cut underneath, but Shiba with the excellent defense to get in his way. So consequently, Australia forced to navigate in the backfield. Low throw dug out by Dowell. Barr snuck that one through, and here's Neild. Centers it to Barr. Here's Lavis. Not enough float. Critical error from Lavis, the Japanese sideline in delight as they have a chance to go up by 4 on the defensive side here.
Ever since 6-5, it's been all in the Japanese favor. They've done a great job on offense and really forced Australia to feel out of sync. making them go with option B. We haven't seen an Australian huck go up and be connected since that point.
Here's a huck for Japan. Run down in the end zone by Shiba. 11-7.
Well, we saw Australia kind of have their game of the tournament against Great Britain, and here the Japanese, besides an early error, have been flawless throughout the late first half and early into the second half. Once again, it's a team that can be very dangerous because you're used to seeing smaller players try to use what we call small ball, a lot of give and go, but the Japanese love to shoot it deep. And just, again, another case of them using bladey throws.
Well, this one floated nicely, lofted by Shinya Kikuchi.
And this one does float.
Every single one of you right here, believe it. We will win this game. Believe it. Come on. Come on. What? Choose now. Choose now. Now. You have to choose now. Have you chosen? Have you chosen?
Coaches for Australia trying to rally the troops. At this point, they've just lost their confidence, and you see it in the body language, you see it in the way they're executing. They haven't been able to go out there and play with that aggressiveness that we saw against Great Britain. And give credit to the Japanese.
Sorry, Brian, it looks like a completely different team.
And that's what happens when you change mentally. It's one thing to be taken out of plan A and plan B is a little bit unsuccessful, but here it just seems by the body language that a loss of confidence that's lasted from those late stages in the first half. And here everything going the Japanese way.
Japan trying to keep it rolling. Barr. Moore. High throw, another mistake. Overshooting Neild. One of the tallest members of the Dingo roster. Tough to throw it too high for him, but Moore did just that.
It's hard in this situation. You want to play your best players, but...
Oh, that disc just kept floating, and maybe that'll help change things around. Nick Doucette went up for the D. And the score from Matt Dowell, so a hold for Australia. That's the first turnover from the Japanese in the second half.
I was just about to say that maybe Australia should be rotating in their players until they get people who can execute without having those unforced errors, but sometimes it's about making plays on defense that can help regain your confidence. It was something that Phil Jackson would always talk to Michael Jordan about. If the shots aren't going in, focus on your defensive game, and here the turnover gives Australia an easy one. That one just floating a bit too much. And that's what's hard about this field site. The wind can go from breezy, 15 mile an hour, 20 mile an hour, to calm and still. And it's hard as a handler, the thrower, to adjust to that changing circumstance.
Australia has finally gotten 1D. Will they be able to build on that defensively? Again, if you just joined us, this is the men's semifinal, the first of the two. USA and Canada coming up. Japan was down 6-4 in the first half. They now lead 11-8. Corona launches upfield. Matsuno leaps and fires. Perfectly placed. Masahiro Matsuno did it again.
He puts his hands up towards the crowd, and this is something that he's done over and over again, and it's so exciting to watch here. He doesn't even see the cut happening, Evan. He puts it out to space, knowing exactly what will happen. The Japanese are so good here at these timing cuts, and we'll get the chance to look on replay. Matsuno, they take him deep, and immediately throwing it to the other side of the field. Defense is out of position, and what are you going to do when this pass is this perfect anyways?
Launching it where only his teammate could catch it. Masahiro Matsuno building on to his legend.
There was one year he came in and played with Furious George and didn't have much chemistry with the team, but led nationals in stats and goals and assists. Just absolutely unstoppable.
So Japan within 3 of a berth in the final. Australia, all they can do is go one at a time. Basic horizontal stack downfield. Kneeled coming under. There's Dowell. Crossfield shot for Evans. Couldn't squeeze it through to do set, so he resets for Blakely. Peter Blakely has racked up a lot of stats this week, but he's been neutralized a good bit by the Japanese in this match.
A lot of help deep, and as a result, the Australians, when they're going to put it to the break side field, they're going to do so with a hammer.
Blakely finally gets the reset.
Some of these players looks like they're on ice skates out here on the field.
This is the muddier end. Sebastian Barr sneaks it through. So Australia holds on offense here. It's Doucette with a goal.
In a precarious situation, as Australia will now have to get back in the game with a big run built on defensive play. They've run through their adjustments, and nothing's really provided them with the opportunities they've needed. It's a tough place to be as a coach because you've run through your toolbox. Do you try something new? We talked before the game where the coaches thought that it would be about how they were able to individually match up against this Japanese squad. And so far, Japan has gotten the better of them.
Well, if the changing of strategy doesn't work, your only real choice is to change personnel.
We've already seen Nield out there for the first point of the second half. And at this point, you have to score 6 before Japan scores 3. A lot of ground to make up. No time like the present here for the Australians.
Tulit was getting ready to throw the pull from the near side, sensed a change in the wind, and now from the far side of the field launches a gigantic backhand. Tom Tulit has joined the Denver Johnny Bravo roster in the United States for the upcoming club season. Product of late night conversation in Manila at the Manila Spirits event with USA's Jimmy Mickle. Matsuno again. Launches and it's caught by Katsuta. Matsuno feeling it right now, and Katsuta with a nice grab made him look good.
Like you said, Matsuno is just coming up smiling after every single throw, looking to the sideline, getting the crowd engaged. A little bit of personality here that we don't often see and don't get the chance to, because how many times do you have the stands field for Ultimate?
Expect to have that tomorrow, Allianz Park. I understand there are still a limited number of tickets available. Ryoma Katsuta has been a reliable target for the Japanese downfield. Action begins at 9 o'clock tomorrow with a bronze medal match in the mixed division.
Here we'll take a look going deep. Matsuno and Katsuta will ride the slip and slide to a goal.
You mentioned it before, Brian, but just the immediacy of the release. It wasn't even at stall 2 before Matsuno launched that lefty flick.
It's something that's incredible to behold, and really when you see it in person, it's even more unbelievable.
Australia launching, Lavis seeks Nield, and it's tipped. Will Nield have space? He will not. I think the leap from the back of the end zone was launched from out of bounds. And again, the defensive play from Japan, too good. Keiichiro Shiba got a piece of it that time to knock it away from Nield.
Here is a great opportunity for Nield to get some separation deep, and even then the throw just can't quite get there.
Nield had a spectacular greatest in the Australia match against the United States. That was how they scored their first goal. Inomata, Takahashi. Miyazaki right back. Takahashi. And a stoppage. It has been a pretty clean game, Brian, with very few fouls, especially here in the second half.
We saw early the precedence for physicality was set on one of the early deep cuts with some arm barring, and that's been deemed okay.
Body still tumbling around as Shiba sends it to Furuzawa. Koike. Furuzawa. Miyazaki sneaks it through. Koike resets. Timeout called by Japan. The disc belongs to Yasuo Takahashi.
I think the most fun part about this Japanese squad from the sideline is the way they cry out in victory as if they scored a goal when a timeout is taken by them. Most teams are excited after the block, but here it's been almost a minute since that's happened. And they're just excited to get back out there with their teammates.
Let's listen in. Intense concentration from the interior. Unbelievable looseness from everyone else.
It really helps things when you play with a smile on your face, and it helps when you're winning, of course. It's easy to do that, and that's been the tough task here for the Australians, is to, as we saw earlier in one of the huddles for the coaches, urging them to have fun.
Takahashi will initiate play. Basically from the attacking brick, a little bit closer to the end zone than that. Japanese coaching staff, Yohei Abe and Yoshinori Nasan. About 45 years of ultimate experience between that duo, and they are piloting this team toward another berth in the world title match. Little zone look from Australia out of the timeout.
Something that I've seen done, and it can confuse players for sure. It's a low percentage, especially against the Japanese, to stick with man defense near the end zone.
Inomata back to Koike. Nosei to the near side, Shiba. Playing catch with Takahashi. Oh, nearly a chance for the D. Blakely couldn't reach it though. Furuzawa. Koike. Get the sense the Japanese could just play catch all day long.
For them, it seems like every throw is automatic, and just you can't really get unforced errors out of them.
Been about 30 throws since they called a timeout. They haven't gone in any particular direction. Continued swings. Australia's had a few chances for a D. One thing the Japanese do well is continue to move playing offense against the zone. Look at the players change spots, replace one another in certain positions.
It's a way to make the defense lose track of your position, because Australia has to do so much communicating here to figure out which options to guard.
And you get the sense the defense has to be getting pretty tired right now.
It becomes more of an endurance battle as there's a call on the field. But may have been the right switch here, because we've seen Japan score very quickly in just a few passes in regular man defense.
No question, it has forced the Japanese to really earn it. Very active mark from Spielman. They go over the top, cross the field. If the Japanese made a throwing mistake, you know, the Aussies would have went nuts. But remarkable perseverance, and Japan has moved within one score of a date with the Saturday final here in London.
Just seconds after the score, we get hit with a gust of wind, something that could have helped the Australians tremendously. But you're right, Evan. That's just a clinic. That's incredibly frustrating, and I'm sitting up here in awe just of, like, how do you stop the Japanese from pretty much anything at this point if you're Australia? You even get a couple of throws that are dangerous. As we take a look here in the replay, this last one just fitting into a tiny space, but this is the way they play and they practice. Everybody's going up against a team and they say, well, they're doing something that's not right or not fundamentally sound, and then they keep doing it, and the frustration sets in. And that's what's so difficult about the Japanese, is they do something that in all right shouldn't work in some respects, but they practice that way all the time. They're great at it. They throw the disc with incredible precision and accuracy.
And that was the D-line. Inomata finally hitting Miyazaki. Australia perhaps getting a little impatient, and Evans misread it ever so slightly. Contact as Kikuchi collided with Blakely.
A little bit of back and forth between a couple of players in Japan, thinking they were going to go in for the injury substitution. Matsuno saying, what do you mean you're going to sub on and not me?
Japan has only had one turnover in the second half, and the Japanese are headed to the championship match at the World Ultimate and Guts Championships. 15-9, they dismantle the Aussies in the semis. From 6-4 down, Japan closes on an 11-3 run against a team that had been spectacular. The Dingoes' quest to the title match falls short.
They will go on to face the winner of Canada-USA, but just such a dominating late first half, second half performance here from the Japanese. Nothing could be done to stop them. The Australians tried zone, they tried different types of man defense, and they early on, as we take a look at the final catch, just an example here of how pinpoint they've been in their hucks, right to the chest of the receiver in the end zone. There was not much the Australians could do. You're going to come away from this game wondering what happened. Japan's defense got Australia out of plan A and into plan B. Then after that, it was curtains.
There was a few errors in the first half from the Aussies after they built their lead that really allowed Japan to seize command. Japanese closing the first half on a 4-0 run. They scored on their first offensive point in the second half, and they would not be broken again. So congratulations to Japan. 15-9 over Australia. And Japan awaits the winner. It'll be either the United States or Canada to take on the Japanese for the World Championship. WIFSDIF's free streaming coverage of the 2016 World Ultimate Championships from London has been brought to you by WUGC Ultimate, proud to be the official merchandise partner of the World Flying Disc Federation. By Eric, teaching youth about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. By members of USA Ultimate, and by the World Flying Disc Federation. We also would not be here without your support via the Kickstarter campaign to help us arrive in London. Let's listen in to Mike Neild from Australia in the Spirit Circle.
And congratulations. This is a wonderful sport. This is a wonderful event. You are an excellent team. It's an honor to play you here.
すごいいいスポーツですごいいい環境で、日本チームはすごくいいチームだと思います。
You played very well and deserve to win. Do the right thing and play very well again tomorrow.
すごくいいプレーがいっぱいあって、自分たちも精一杯頑張りました。明日はもっといいプレーして、勝ってください。頑張ってください。Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations, Team Japan. Congratulations. Dingoes, 3 cheers for Team Japan. Hep, hey! Hep, hey! Hep, hey!
So Japan takes down Australia 15-9. They're on to the title match tomorrow. For Brian Jones and our entire crew, Evan Lepler saying so long for now. We are less than 45 minutes away from the second men's semifinal. United States and Canada. You don't want to miss that. But for now, on behalf of our entire WIFDIF crew, we bid you adieu from London.
Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.